What's going on, everybody? It's Gosei, come back at you with another video. And so for this one, there have been many times where I have thought about going back to controller and giving up mouse and keyboard. Whether it is due to myself getting frustrated at my progress on mouse and keyboard, or due to most of my friends still on console, where mouse and keyboard isn't always an option for the games that we want to play. In this video, I'll be looking over the main differences between mouse and keyboard and controller, and I will be focusing mostly on the games of Fortnite and Apex when talking about the differences. Basically trying to come to a conclusion whether it would be worth it to switch back to controller or to stay on mouse and keyboard. So to be quite honest, mouse and keyboard is obviously superior to controller. I think we could get that one out of the way right off the bat. But controller does have one main advantage when it comes to shooters, and that is aim assist. Some people have figured out how to abuse this feature and make their aim better than people that even use a mouse. Now, in my opinion, controller has a smaller learning curve than mouse and keyboard, and in fact, I believe it is easier to get good with a controller than it is to get good with a mouse and keyboard due to how simple it is to use. It is literally made for gaming. Due to this, when first starting out, it is easier to make your aim better when using a controller than with a mouse due to aim assist helping you out a bit. Another slight advantage is when driving vehicles. Driving a vehicle with a controller is much easier due to the sticks being able to go in a full 360-degree motion, while on mouse and keyboard you have to use WASD, which ultimately doesn't give you a full range of motion. Now, of course, this is only a slight advantage due to vehicles not really being used as a very important part in Fortnite and not even being in Apex. The biggest pro has to be comfortability. A controller was created to game comfortably. You can really lay down on the couch and still play with a controller, and this just isn't possible with the mouse and keyboard. So obviously, holding a controller is more comfortable as well. This might just be a little bias coming out of me, but in my opinion, holding and using a controller is generally more comfortable than using a mouse and keyboard. But as I said before, mouse and keyboard, quite honestly, is superior when it comes to shooting games. Movement isn't as easy or free, but your aim is. There is a reason that there isn't any aim assist when using a mouse, and that is due to you having the ability to use not just your thumb, but your whole arm to aim, basically. It does take more practice to perfect, but if you look at the top gamers for these two games, it is obvious that it is better overall. With mouse and keyboard, you get more buttons. If you want to, you can assign every little action to its own specific button, which is impossible to do on a controller. This allows switching guns, building, healing, and more to be done seamlessly without having to cycle or a long press due to more than one thing being binded to a button. If your goal is to become a pro or even a top player at either one of these games, or really any shooter, then it is in your best interest to learn mouse and keyboard. Looking at the top players, some of them use a controller, but most of them use mouse and keyboard for the simple reason of it having a higher ceiling as far as skill than a controller. Now, to wrap it all up, I didn't want to go into too many details on mouse and keyboard and then on controller because it is fairly obvious the things that I'm relating to. I basically just tried to lay out the main differences for you guys. All those little things, it's pretty obvious which one is better for which and all that types of stuff. Basically, to wrap it all up, I'm willing to acknowledge that mouse and keyboard is superior to controller, and if you're just starting out and have the option to choose between the two, mouse and keyboard is the way to go. For me, I'm going to switch between the two, at least for the time being. Now, this comes down to one factor in particular. I like to play with my friends, and my friends are on console. Now, of course, you could play Fortnite with a mouse and keyboard, and I think maybe like one or two other games on console with mouse and keyboard, but the majority of games you cannot play with mouse and keyboard on console. They all have to be with a controller. So this means that if I want to play with my friends, I have to plug in that controller to play with them. Now, my advice to anyone who is watching this, if you're in the same situation as me and aren't really looking to be a pro, then maybe controller is the best option for you, due to you being able to switch between PC and console and then still be able to improve because you are using a controller for both. The pros I gave for mouse and keyboard are only the main ones when comparing directly to controller, but it has way more than that and really does give you more potential to be good. So if you are going to be sticking to PC only, then I highly recommend using mouse and keyboard and trying to get away from that controller. As always, really appreciate you guys watching the video. If you like the video, make sure to drop a like, hit that thumbs up, and subscribe for more content just like this. Hope you all have a great day.